episode 12. It's your boy Icon with some DC TV reviews. And I'm well aware that this video is a tad bit late. I haven't seen the finale for Titans yet. But you know, with DC fandom going on, I did coverage for DC fandom. Check out the Tacos and Geek podcast. Link will be in the description. And I also covered Comic-Con because Comic-Con was back and, you know, I was live at Comic-Con. So between doing all this stuff, doing a lot of running around and everything, I fell a little bit behind on the DC TV. But we're going to close out the season on Titan Strong because I'm going to put up my review for this. And then my season finale review is going to be right behind it. So definitely check both out, like and subscribe. So this particular episode starts where the last one ended when they shot my boy Richard Gillian Grayson. and I almost walked away from the show when they killed Dick. But you know, but Rachel felt, you know, because, you know, Rachel and Dick, they still have that connection. Rachel felt the connection between them, and she was just like, oh, something's wrong with Dick. So, you know, both Gar and Rachel, they went out to go see what was wrong. They found Dick. They found Dick's lifeless body. And you know, and then Rachel tried to use her magic power to bring him back to life. But for some reason, she said it was too late. I mean, that was odd to me because Rachel had healed people before. But I guess between Dick getting shot in the neck and then getting stomped out by the mob, I guess like his pulse was too weak, you know, and there was nothing. But Rachel said there was nothing she could do. Fine, there's nothing she could do. So then Rachel starts crying. She gets all emotional. Gar gets emotional. And then for some reason, those same bats that, you know, that have been following Gar since the beginning, the bats showed up again. They surrounded Gar. And I guess they were talking to him. I guess he could hear the bats. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Gar transforms into a bat. So part of me was just like, well, it's about damn time, you know, like I'm sick of looking at that tiger. So he's been a tiger, he's been a snake, and now he's a bat. And then the bats, they end up like surrounding Dick Grayson, like with Gar leading the charge, and they all like lift him up off the ground and they bring him downstairs to the Lazarus pit. Because like I said in the last review, I didn't understand why Gar and Rachel were looking for the Lazarus pit, but then once Dick got shot in the neck, I was like, oh, there it is. So, you know, they do what we all suspected. They throw Dick in the Lazarus pit and they wait for the pick to take effect so Dick can come back to life. While Dick was in the pit, he was having like dreams or visions in the afterlife. And when he was in the afterlife, he basically was met by Jonathan Crane, and, you know, Jonathan Crane was like taunting him and basically trying to get him to go, you know, to go all the way into the afterlife. I guess Crane was there to try to prevent him. You know, he was trying to stop the Lazarus pit from bringing him back to life. He was trying to get Dick, you know, to give up. He was trying to like kill his willpower. He was taunting him by saying things like, oh, you know, like you thought Batman was your father and he replaced you with Jason. And then, you know, like your real dad, he died. He would be ashamed of you, of the man that you've become. And then, you know, after a while, he just kept like taunting him. And then Dick and it's like, you know, it got to a point where Dick was just like, you know, he was just like, yo, I got a daddy. You know, he was just like, you're right. He was like, you know, I'm not Batman. I was trying to be Batman, and it was wrong for me to try to be Batman because I'm not Batman. He was like, I'm not Bruce Wayne's son. I'm not Bruce Wayne's little brother. I'm not even a Wayne. He was like, yo, I'm John Grayson's son. And we were the Flying Graysons, and we gave people hope, and, you know, and we performed for people, and, you know, we put smiles on people's faces. He was just like, you know, I gotta tap into something. And then Crane tried to get him to be like, oh, but your jealousy for Jason. And then he even turned Dick into the Joker, and it was Dick who was actually beating Jason with the crowbar. But then Dick snapped out of it, and he was just like, yo, I don't want this. Like, he flat out said, he was like, this isn't what I want. He ended up going to like a different place of purgatory. I thought he was gonna see Hank. It was crazy he didn't see Hank. But then, which says, you know, that he wasn't really dead yet. But then, you know, he went to a different part of, you know, of his spiritual journey, and then he actually saw his dad. You know, he saw his dad holding him as a child, and they were walking through the forest. You know, and then he turned around, like a little girl said, you know, like, come here, daddy. Like she said, daddy. And then he turned around and saw a little black girl standing there holding a red balloon. And I was just like, oh shit. So, I mean, if she called him daddy, clearly that's both he and Starfire's child. But the magical purgatory spiritual journey thing that he was on, that's not like, it's not like he didn't go into the future pit, you know what I'm saying? Like, he went to the Lazarus pit. Just because he saw an image of him having a daughter, that doesn't mean it's law predicts. That doesn't mean like it's, you know, like it's a spoiler for the future. Like, that might not happen. Maybe it's just something that he wants to happen deep down in his subconscious, and we'll see if that eventually comes to light, you know, like in the end. So he saw the little girl. and then like, he smiled, and then he was all filled with like happy and joy. And then, he ended up like reaching his hand out and he snapped out of it, and then he jumped out of the pit. Then when he jumped out of the pit, Rachel was there, Gar was there, they're asking him if he was okay. Well, before he came out of the pit, Rachel and Gar themselves were actually having a conversation, and Gar was talking to her about the whole animal thing. He told Rachel that fear is what drives him to switch into animals, but it doesn't happen often, because he said there's something mentally blocking him from turning into like multiple animals, obviously everything except the tiger. And then, Rachel told him, she was just like, it was her love that made her true power shine. And then she put her hand on Gar's neck, and then I guess like she felt his inner strength, and she told him, she said, you have all the power that you need. And I'm just like, whatever mental roadblock Gar had, or what Gar said he had, I think Rachel just unlocked it and didn't actually tell him, because Gar didn't transform at all throughout the rest of the episode. So it'd be interesting to see, because she told him, she was like, you got everything that you need, and she unlocked something. So hopefully now this means going forward, there's more money in the budget for Gar to do something other than just turn into a tiger. But we'll see what happens in the season finale. So so Dick came out of the pit, and then he saw Rachel, he saw Gar. He wasn't surprised for some reason to see Rachel, and he was just like, oh, I gotta go find Jason. And then Rachel was like, well, what are we supposed to do? He was like, unite the Titans, bring the Titans back together. And then they looked at him like, unite the Titans? And she was like, well, then Rachel was like, well, where are the Titans? And then he was like, I don't know, but you gotta find them and bring them together. And then he said, start with Donna. And then both of them was like, Donna? And Rachel, I'm surprised Rachel reacted to that, because when Donna's body was in Themyscira, Rachel actually went into the chamber after Donna woke up. Rachel knows that her body is missing. So I don't know why she was that surprised, but Gar was definitely surprised. And well, he also told them go check on Superboy, because remember, he blew the kryptonite dust in his face. Gar and Rachel go down to check on Superboy. Superboy was gone, but then they heard like a radio signal over the speaker that they spotted a Titan somewhere downtown, and they were going to go down there and kill the Titan. So Rachel and Gar went down to go see what that's all about, because they were actually talking about Donna. Donna then, she's gearing up with Tim and Tim's family, and they're getting ready to take on the police department. But then Tim came in the room and told everybody that Nightwing was dead. And then when they got the news that Nightwing had died, the mom lost it, and she was like, yo, I'm out this bitch. And then Tim did the whole like, you can do what you want, but I'm staying, and then at that point, Donna tried to talk him out of it. She was like, yo, she's like, what the hell's your problem? And he was like, I gotta be a hero, I gotta stay, and I gotta fight for Gotham. And she was like, but that's not how you be a hero. She was like, being a hero isn't just you standing up and fighting for Gotham. She was like, yo, your mom's scared to death, like your parents are afraid for you, like your parents don't want anything to happen to you. She said that the way that you become a hero is putting others ahead of yourself. She said, save your parents and protect your parents. She was like, that's how you become a hero. And then he was like, no disrespect, Miss Troy, but he was like, yo, my parents made their choice. He was like, my dad was a cop, for Christ's sake. He put his life on the line every single day, and nobody batted an eye. He said, if anything, we respected his decision. And he said that it's my destiny to become the next Robin, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And then she was just like, nah. She was like, nah. And then so then like later on, because the family was trying to get out of Gotham, Donna stole like a police armored truck. She loaded Tim's family into the armored truck, and now instead of fighting the police department, they're actually trying to escape over the bridge and leave Gotham altogether. So then when the radio signal came through that Gar and Rachel heard about a Titan being spotted, they were talking about Donna, because they saw her driving that armored truck. So they pulled up on the truck. Like the cops showed up, like they tried to pull the swerve. They tried to put the dad in the driver's seat instead of Donna, but it didn't work. The cops opened the back door. Donna punched him in the face, and now there's a firefight going on between Donna, Tim's family, and the crooked members of the GCPD. So now that whole fight thing is going on, Gar and Rachel are going to jump into that. They're going to get mixed up in the middle of that, and I guess they're going to team up with Donna and Tim, and they're going to help save the day. Blackfire was trying to leave the city. And she, despite having her powers back, because remember, she stole Corey's powers in the previous episode, despite having her powers back, she for some reason tried to steal a car. And I don't understand why she just didn't fly, but whatever. And then, Crypto showed up and tried to, he brought Blackfire to the place where Dick had blown the kryptonite dust in his face, because remember when Gar and Rachel got there, he was gone. He was gone because Commander Blackfire, she burnt out the kryptonite dust from Connor's body. And then, she was just like, what? She's like, who did this to you? And then he was like, Dick did it. And he was like, I don't understand why, because Dick said we were a family, and he's like, part of me wants to, wants to hurt him, but another part of me wants to continue to be a family and wants to, do good and do justice. And then Blackfire was dead ass. She was like, yo, fuck the Titans. And then she was like, look, she said, it could just be me and you. She said, me and you can be a crime fighting force for good, and we don't have to worry about the Titans at all. It could just be me and you. And then he was just like, yeah, fuck the Titans. Because the thing with Beast Boy, the thing with Superboy that you got to remember is, not only is he still young-minded because he's new to living, he's completely new to living, but like I said, he tends to have the mind, of an undeveloped adolescent child, but he's also super smart at the same time. But then we got to remember, this is the first time he ever got some, and anybody who's ever lost their virginity, you tend to fall head over heels over the person, that took it from you. So he's basically just following her around no matter what she says or what she does, because he's still smitten, by the Blackfire, if you know what I mean. So, he was just like, fuck the Titans. He was like, it's going to be me and you, and we gonna go out there and we gonna do the damn thing. So they went back to the doctor, the doctor that had captured Blackfire in episode 2 or 3. They went back to the doctor, and they were gonna kill the doctor because they were just like, because their whole thing was like, we're gonna clean up the streets and we're gonna start with the doctor because the doctor was crooked. But the doctor, in an effort to save his life, he told them that, listen, if you agree to not kill me, I'll let you have Blackfire's ship back. She thought her ship was destroyed, but then when she saw the ship, he was like, yo, here's your ship. He was like, my bad, I lied. He said, you can have the ship and you can go home. Blackfire was like, I don't need the ship anymore because there's no reason for me to return to Tamaran. And then that's when Starfire showed up, and then Corey was just like, listen, we need to talk. I got to tell you something. She told her the story about how her parents transferred her power from Blackfire over to Starfire, and they lied and covered it up, and that Blackfire actually is the true heir to the throne. And after giving this whole speech about her and Superboy teaming up together, and after giving this whole speech about how they're going to be a couple and they're boyfriend and girlfriend and they're going to ride and they're going to do justice and they're going to clean up the streets, once Starfire was like, yo, you're the true heir and the power is yours, she was like, yo, peace, bitches. And then she was like, yo, fire up that spaceship. And then Superboy got mad, understandably so, because he was like, yo, you just said it was going to be me and you. And then she was like, nah. She was like, I know I said that, but lesson number 12, kid, heartbreak. You know what I'm saying? Like your first love always breaks your heart. But she actually had the nerve, but she had to handle him with care because the doctor also said that the power source for her ship had got destroyed. And he said that they can't replicate the amount of intensity and heat that's needed to power up the ship. But Ander said that Superboy was able to do that. So now she had to kind of smooth things over with Superboy because she just told him he was bouncing, and now she has to talk him into doing the thing to save her ship. So, she told him, she was like, just let me go, let me do my destiny. She's like, I care about you, but she's like, I got to do what I got to do. And then he was like, you don't need them. It could just be me and you and blah, blah, blah. But, like I said, she put the swoon on him, and then she told him, she was just like, she got him to help her. And then cause he's whipped. You know what I'm saying? He's Tamaranian whipped, if you know what I mean. So he agreed to do it. Now, the surprise part was after he condensed the power source and he put the power source in her ship, they were waiting for the power source, to take effect to power the ship. And then something funny started happening. And then at that moment, Starfire was like, oh, something's wrong. Turn off, she was like, turn off the ship, turn off the power source. Superboy looked at her like, uh-huh. And then she was like, huh? and then after that, the entire ship exploded. And I was a member of a chat because I also subscribe, I follow and I watch, Twisted Girl CKR, Chauncey K. Robinson. I follow her YouTube channel as well. She did a live review, a live chat review for Titans for this particular episode. And, it was funny to me because she was upset over the fact that Starfire and Blackfire are supposed to be just as strong as Kryptonians, but for some reason they were knocked 50 feet back when the explosion happened. The way I justified that whole thing in my mind was the reason why they got blown 50 feet back was because they didn't expect it coming. They didn't see it coming. If the difference was Superboy, he was able to brace himself because he knew the ship was going to explode because he's the one that sabotaged it. But Blackfire and Starfire didn't know that, so they were taken by surprise and they were taken back. That's how I justified it anyway. So, so now he's blown up the ship And now Blackfire is trapped here, and she can't go back to Tamaran, which is now going to cause beef between her and Superboy. Superboy just turned full heel. He just went full villain on everybody and they tried to hint at the Lex Luthor side of him is taking over. But it's not even that serious. Basically, he was Tamaranian whipped. She broke his heart, and now he mad. Like, it's a simple love story played out throughout the course of time in history. So, and now that brings us to, oh, by the way, Barbara was in jail, and then she got out of jail, and then after she got out of jail, she ended up going to the Oracle, and she's trying to reboot the Oracle because, like they said earlier in the season, the Oracle was the only machine smart enough to outthink Professor Crane's plan. So Barbara's trying to get the Oracle to boot up. And then finally, Dick, he ended up, finding Jason. He had a conversation with Jason, and then he told Jason, and it was weird because Dick had the Nightwing costume on when he went in the pit, and when he came out of the pit, he had on regular clothes, and I'm like, what happened to the costume? But anyway, so he runs up on Jason wearing regular clothes, and then he told Jason, Jason looked like he saw a ghost when he saw him, and I'm like, why are you surprised that you saw him when you died and you came back? And then he was just like, yeah, I was in the pit. And then, he was like, I need your help. And then Jason started laughing. He was just like, yo, Crane's got the city under lock and key. Nobody can stop Crane. He was like, we could stop Crane. We could do it together. Because Crane was looking for something specific. He had said to Jason earlier in the episode that he was on the verge of performing one of his greatest plans, his greatest schemes. And he was stopped by Batman and Robin. And these were like some of the strongest chemicals, fear toxin chemicals. It was basically like some green chemical that he wanted to get his hands on, but he was stopped by Batman and Robin, and he couldn't do it. So he was trying to find out, the reason why he was in the Batcave is because he was going through Bruce's files to try to find out where Bruce hid those chemicals that he had. Jason ended up telling Dick that, and then Dick was just like, yo, come with me and let's stop Crane together from destroying Gotham. And then, Jason was just like, oh, so that's it? He's like, he's like, all is forgiven. He's like, I murdered people. He's like, I just get to go back and being a Titan. He's like, I just get to go back to being a Titan again. And then Dick was like, hell no. Dick was like, you'll never be a Titan again. He was like, but you can try to earn some redemption, and you can try to help me save the city. The two of them went down to the warehouse where Bruce hid the stuff. When they opened the case that had the chemicals in it, the chemicals were gone. There was a book left behind that said Crane is about to start a war, and now Jason and Dick, I guess they're going to team up together to try to go stop Crane. Crane had all that stuff in the Batcave, which means there's a bunch of GCPD officers that now know Bruce Wayne is Batman, which means all these people have to die in the season finale. So Crane has his magic juice, and he's going to do whatever it is he's going to do to flood the city and to take over and to scare the hell out of everybody. So that was it. And thank you for tuning in. So like I said, so now Dick and Jason, they're on their way back to go try to stop Crane. Starfire, Blackfire, and Beast Boy, they're dealing with the whole explosion thing. Rachel and Gar are on their way to go meet up with Donna and Tim, who are being shot at by the GCPD. So we will see how all this unfolds in the last episode. So share your thoughts, your questions, your comments, and concerns, and we will continue to talk about it. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Again, the Tacos and Geek podcast, where we cover the DC fandom. The link will be in the description. Also, check out my Comic-Con video and my other videos because Batwoman is back, DC Legends of Tomorrow is back, Stargirl is about to finish, Supergirl's almost finished, The Flash is going to start soon, and that Young Justice is back, baby, and we're covering that as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys. So until the season finale for Titans, this was episode 12, Prodigal. The Prodigal Son has returned, and until next time, about this...